Right, we're talking about Jose Mourinho. He's just lost his job at Roma. Obviously, there's this lovely narrative of him managing England, which I think is lovely. Obviously, former manager twice for Chelsea as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to get your opinion on maybe where he sits in his managerial career right now. Does he manage England? Does he manage Newcastle? Does he come back to Chelsea? Like, what are your overview?
I want him back
thoughts?
at Chelsea.
Yeah.
I desperately want him back at Chelsea. I think that it just fits so snugly into what we need at the moment. Everything that's lacking at Chelsea. If you think about who we are at the moment, I don't really know the answer to that. If you think about who we were under Mourinho, there is a clear answer. So in terms of identity, which I think is so important for every football club, Jose Mourinho is that. And now, I imagine that the people watching this in the comment section, I imagine it will all be very anti the words I'm saying here.
Yeah.
But bear with me and at least allow me to try and demonstrate the point, right? If nothing else, how does it make you feel? So, okay, you might tell me that he's a spent force and the football's too negative and, okay, fine, that's the stuff on the pitch.
Yeah.
But what about Mourinho? What does he represent?
Yeah.
Who is he? Where does he rank in the history of Chelsea Football Club? All of those things mean an awful lot to me.
Of course.
So I'm not necessarily coming at it from the what's best on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
There is a conversation that we should have in a minute. Mourinho versus Pochettino. And I think the answer is Mourinho. I genuinely believe the answer is Mourinho. But anybody that kind of says, you know, maybe you could be a little bit more progressive, maybe you could be a little bit more forward thinking, they're right.
Yeah.
But football is about emotion as well. It's about how it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anybody, there certainly isn't another manager that's ever made me feel like Jose Mourinho.
Yeah. I think that's what's interesting about him, because I think we can all agree he is a relatively spent force. It's a bit like, you know, boxers. You know, every boxer has their prime years. Yeah. His prime years were the early 2000s, mid to late 2000s, figuring out how to be hard to beat, hit sides on the counter with the quality that he had. You know, whether that's Drogba, whether that's Sammy Eto'o at Inter Milan. But I think you're bang on. I think like going to Chelsea and doing a save job, going to Newcastle doing a save job, going to England and doing a save job, if we were to capitulate early in the tournament. Imagine we get out the groups, face Germany in the round of 16, the Euros, and then we lose. You know?
Which is very feasible.
It is.
Well, do you know what though, Booth? You know when you kind of said he's a spent force, and look, I know what you mean. On the scale from where he was, which is arguably the best manager in the world, to where he is today, he's most certainly not the best manager in the world. He's a spent force by that rationale. However, people constantly say, you know, he's been sacked from 4 jobs in a row. And when I heard that, I kind of thought, that is quite a dramatic statement, isn't it? 4 jobs in a row he's been sacked.
Every manager's sacked.
So, firstly, you're right. Yeah, every manager is sacked. But secondly, every single one of those 4 clubs, with the exception of Tottenham, where he was robbed of the opportunity to win a trophy, he's won a trophy.
Yeah.
At every trophy.
15 years at Roma. Roma are maybe the Spurs of Italy.
Yeah.
On some level. They're a massive club, massive institution in the capital of Italy. Yeah. And they didn't win anything for 15 years. Then he rocks up and wins something.
Straight away.
Wins the Europa League after that, a year after that.
And deserved it, actually. Like, you know, I think there was, you know, his issue with the referee wasn't, look, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the point is, people go, look how wrong it went at Manchester United. Okay, well, they won a European trophy. And if you think about how far away they feel from a European trophy now, it actually demonstrates quite how well he did in that job. At the time, because it was, you know, in the shadow of Sir Alex Ferguson, and maybe it didn't feel that impressive because they were used to.
But now it's amazing, and it was
amazing.
A double, wasn't it? Some people were even calling it the treble because it was a Community Shield, a League Cup, and a Europa League.
Yeah, and also go into. I think they went to. It was Sweden, wasn't it?
Yeah, against.
They went
Ajax,
to Sweden and beat Ajax.
Yeah.
Like beating Ajax in a European final, right? That matters.
That is something.
That really does matter.
Yeah.
So that's the Manchester United case study. I think we can, unless people are really passionate about this, I would just kind of agree that he did quite well there. Be interesting to see what people think, but I imagine that most people will concede that he did okay.
Yeah.
Then you can analyse the Tottenham thing. So Tottenham didn't go well, but I swear, if they had given Mourinho a chance against Man City in that final, there isn't a better man. I'm not saying he would have won, the odds were against him. But there isn't a better man to nearly win that or to try and win that. Or
we weren't good. Going into that final, we were not good.
No,
we only won the game 1-0.
Yeah,
exactly.
only finished 1-0
anyway.
anyway.
Manager against 39-year-old manager who's never managed before.
I am convinced that Mourinho has a better chance than Mason.
Yeah.
And Mason nearly got the job done. So I think it's fair to say Mourinho, if you extrapolate from Mason to Mourinho, maybe.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Roma issue.
Yeah.
So, he's been sacked from Roma. But I don't think that the feeling around the Olympico has ever been as good.
No.
Or certainly not for the last couple of decades.
So would you, you have to get rid of Pochettino, the project that he is...
Today!
You do it right now?
Today! Seriously, today.
Yeah,
okay, this is a better question. Maybe this is quite an interesting one as well, because I think that actually, despite me not necessarily knowing more about Mourinho, but having lived more Mourinho than you, I think, and potentially your audience, I think, are in a better place to answer this than me, because I'm so biased. I can't not be. Who do you think is a better manager today? Mourinho today or Pochettino today?
In a one-off game, it would be Mourinho. I'm a huge fan. But the £1 billion you've spent, the young players coming through the academy, I know there's a lot of issues with that in terms of even selling those players. But I think Pochettino is still the long-term option. That'll be the issue for Chelsea fans if he is actually linked.
I've seen nothing in Pochettino to think that that's right, though. I don't know what... if people say to me that, the project or you've got to be patient, or what do they always say, people? Trust the process.
Trust the process, yeah.
I don't really know what it is. With Pochettino,
but Mourinho
I genuinely
has a real process that is the antithesis of bringing young players through.
Yeah,
he's really anti-youth on some level. Obviously, he has used young players to achieve what he wants, but in a very short-term way.
The difference, if we bombed him in at Chelsea today, look, this isn't going to happen, but in my fantasy, it happens. If we just dropped him in at Chelsea, he'd have no choice but to favour the youth, because we have nothing but youth.
Got no one else.
He can't. It's not like he can go, oh, do you know what? We're going to get the band back together and maybe get hold of Eto and Jock. Like they're not around.
No.
So he would have no choice but to dedicate his time to Cole Palmer and try and help Conor Gallagher in the way that he helped Frank Lampard, and try and somehow see why Reece James is always injured and work out an answer to get, when he's back, Nicholas Jackson scoring in the way that he got Didier Drogba scoring.
Would you rather him Chelsea manager or England manager?
I really want England to win in Germany. I really want that.
Right now, you get Jose Mourinho for 6 months at England,
I've got
2 years at Chelsea.
I've got a greedy answer to this. You know where I'm going with this? I've got a very greedy answer.
You can't say both.
But I can.
You can't.
But I can.
What, Glenn Hoddle or something like that? Or
who's
the guy that managed England in a club?
What I'm thinking is, he'll be able to do Chelsea until the summer.
Yeah, no.
Have a little hiatus.
Gus Hiddink did that, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, didn't Gus Hiddink do it? No, he did it with Russia.
And then he was managing Chelsea and Russia.
Chelsea and Russia, yeah. That's my answer. And I know that's not what you tried to box me into a corner, but I bobbed and weaved you.
You got out of that Floyd Mayweather, mate. That's amazing. I know what I'd do. Obviously, I'm not a Chelsea fan, but give it. He's never had an international job. I think he's a little bit out of his depth, maybe with the modern approach to football. He's a little bit out of his depth, maybe with modern, young, exciting players, working with Haaland and people like that. Maybe he's a little bit out of his depth, but putting his arm around Harry Kane, putting his arm around John Stones and people like that.
England are more likely to win in Germany with Mourinho than Southgate. That's the least controversial thing I've ever said.
Yeah.
So I'd love the idea of getting Mourinho in for England as well. I also think that he kind of wants the England job.
Of course he does. Bobby Robson and
I think
all
he kind of wants the England job.
Of course.
So, look, I think the fact that Mourinho is sacked, it feels to me like serendipity. It feels like 2 and 2 makes a Christmas cake. Chelsea are in dire straits because we don't know who we are. We have a Tottenham manager and we don't know who we are. So we can get rid of that problem. We can bring in a proper Chelsea man. I know people mocked me for this, but he's a Chelsea man.
Yeah.
Pochettino is not. Let's solve the problem. And look, with regard to England, do you know what part of my New Year's resolution was on football, which I'm now not sticking, but I'm going to have to go back on what I said. I don't think that England are more likely to win in the Euros, which I'm so desperate for, if you and I, for example, and people with bigger platforms than us, and people on radio, and people with columns in very reputable papers, I don't think it's helpful to constantly flag how average we think Gareth Southgate is. And therefore, what I'm trying to do on a build-up to this is just back Southgate. Just back him, because it can't be beneficial to constantly say that he is not the right man. It can't even be beneficial to the very small amount of people who follow me on Twitter and read it.
It's a bit like saying "I told you so," which is so obvious. So I see what you're trying to say, but I think you have to, with what we do in the media in particular, however small, big it is, I think you have to sit there and say, as I'm looking at it, he's not good enough for the job.
Think two things coexist though. I don't think Gareth Southgate is the best man for the job. But equally, Gareth Southgate is the best man for the job. Because he has the job.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who else. It doesn't like Pep Guardiola would be a great manager for the England job, but it's not going to happen. Just as it's not going to happen with Mourinho. Like Gareth Southgate is our manager, and maybe we should just try and buy into that.
Yeah, hope so, mate. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate
my
it.
pleasure.
Obviously,
Thank
check
you.
out Rory on YouTube and everywhere else. We'll be live on the club very, very soon. And we'll see you very, very soon.